intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity.
This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing.
Imagine what we'll do 50,000 years or a million years. Incomprehensible.
Unidentified flying object, saucer shape, bar shape.
That's some science fiction stuff right there.
We're back, baby.
I can feel it flowing through my veins. It's Sunday, and you know what Sunday is, Digby?
Yes, I do. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Unidentified Anomalous podcast. I'm Digby Furno, and him over there, that's Tom Thompson. How you doing, Tom?
Oh, I'm doing great, Digby. How are you, sir?
I'm really good. As you can see, the sun is shining. I am back in the motherland, that is Portugal, and all is right in the world.
It's I like your house over there, man. I saw you coming down the steps earlier. I was like, that's nifty right there. I like that staircase.
My steps. Everybody, my steps. Meet my steps. They are wood.
Cool. I don't know. It's nice.
Upstairs. And if you're upstairs, they lead downstairs.
It's a cool design. It's very like, there's something modern about it, but it's like really simplistic and minimalist from an architectural standpoint. Not to get too in depth, but I like it. I think it's a cool house.
Yes, it is very cool. It is very cool. And we're very lucky to be here. And the sun is shining and the weather is wonderful.
Digby, if I recall, about, I don't know how long it would be now, but it was over the summer. You stepped away from the show for a bit.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I just couldn't stand your face anymore, mate.
I know. It's like you got to take a break from it every now and then. Would it be fair to say that you're back?
Yes.
Like that. And what did I say to you?
You'll be back.
Right? Confirming that. I did say that. Thank you very much.
Oh, I've just posted a message that was supposed to be for you, and I've done it.
Did it delete all of our clips? I'll do that in the background as we talk.
Yes. Cool. Sorry, Tom and I jumped in and out of one studio and into another while we were testing things to get ready for the show, and all the clips that we loaded for today's show have been deleted from the studio. So while Tom does that in the background, I'll fill. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. Actually, it's been an interesting time since you and I did the last show together. I mean, I know we did the live stream with the Jake Barber interview and everything, which was insane. Well. We had 75,000 live views on that show.
It was nuts.
Live views. I mean,
easily the biggest stream I've ever been a part of.
Oh my God. It was massive. And then News Nation, being the bastards that they are, decided to tell us that we weren't allowed to use it because we used too much of their footage. So we had to clip that out of it, but it was fine. Whatever.
It was a great time.
It was a great show. And, we're really glad to be
Hey, Paul's in the chat.
Paul's here.
What's up, Paul?
It's loads has happened, hasn't it, since the last time you and I did? There's a
lot to talk about in this sphere. There's a lot of developments, a lot of back and forth on opinions. I feel like there's been a significant shift in the area of people's faith in certain front-facing UFO celebrities, we'll call them, for lack of a better term. I've seen that. I've even kind of gone through some of that in certain ways, but welcome everybody to the show. Oh, Zensei's here, my guy. This guy, man. That's our guy right there.
I love that episode when he came on. It was great.
It was really fantastic.
But Tom, going back to what you were saying, I mean, to be fair, since we last did a proper show together, I think I've been doing a lot of soul searching about what I think about the phenomena and all the players behind the scenes and what's going on. And I have to say, I think my opinion has changed considerably recently. And, I think I've shifted from waiting for that moment of government disclosure to realizing that, hang on a second, we've got to do this ourselves. I mean, not you and me both personally, because that's a bit of a weight for us to both have, isn't it? Right? We're not going to do this by ourselves.
No, we need some hands in here, man. But we're one small cog in that wheel, and there's a lot of people that are part of that. What's up, Lori? What's up, Eddie? Welcome everybody in the chat. And we don't have a show without the chat, without the audience. We love you guys, and we really appreciate you guys. There's people here right now that have been supporting us like literally since we started, which just means the absolute world to us. So thank you. But you're right, Digby. You're absolutely right. I have been in a lot of different Twitter spaces, ones you've been in, some that you haven't been in. And one of the things that came up a lot was the fact that it came from a lot of different people, myself included, that disclosure ultimately is going to be a grassroots effort. We were saying that for a very long time. This is before Jake Barber. This is going back even, but now really, it has significantly shifted, and it sort of feels like we have a little bit more power in our hands now than before.
Yeah, I completely agree. And let's just touch on this. I mean, we've got a big lineup for today. We've got lots to cover, but the grassroots effort is absolutely right. But there were so many people talking when the Jake Barber news came out and his extended interview came out with Ross Coulthart, which by the way was so much better than the shortened version. And he did his interview with Jesse Michaels, which was without doubt, for me personally, one of the best interviews I've seen. And not just in this subject matter, in all of them. It was an entertaining conversation between two people that clearly got on very well with each other. It was open, it was honest, it felt very transparent. I really liked that. But there was a lot of criticism coming from people saying, oh, yeah, but now it's funded by SALT. There's a private investment company behind it. And now there's this new fund that's being set up on the stock market to financially benefit from crash recovered technology. And everybody's, so you know what UFO Twitter's like. You know what people are like. Oh, yeah, now it's going to be sold to private investors and everything like that. It's like that. Yeah, it is. And do you know what? That's exactly what we bloody well need. We need people in the private sector that want to get involved in this, make some money off it, because let's face it, the world does revolve around it. As much as we would like it not to, it absolutely does. So if there's a financial benefit to people, then disclosure will happen. And this technology then becomes in the public sphere rather than in the private sector of the military industrial complex. This is the only way we get to see the advantage of reverse engineered technology, in my opinion.
I think it definitely gives us a better shot. However, do need to make sure somehow, some way, that the individuals involved from the private sector are as driven by passion and curiosity and open-mindedness as we are. I want people that have their heart in this. I want people that if they were to walk into a room and be face-to-face with a piece of technology that isn't from Earth, to feel the same type of awe that I would or you would.
I completely agree. And I have to say that with the funding from the SALT Foundation, I think that's exactly what we're getting. SALT have had, who have they had as their keynote speakers for the last 2 years running? Last year, it was Carl Nell. And before that, it was Gary Nolan. Yep. They're not messing around. No, they're not taking. They're also not taking anybody that can be brought into question. Whether you're a Lou fan or not, you can't have Lou Elizondo come up and speak on something like that because there's too many things that can be brought into question. Somebody like Carl Nell was a great person to have. I love Carl, but I mean, have you seen the clip for the new Disclosure documentary that's coming out? Of course you have. It's a great clip. I think this is going to. Well, everybody's saying this is really going to break the ground, but we'll see. But even Carl Nell's bit in that, it's still the same opening line.
Non-human intelligence exists.
It's real, and it's been interacting with humanity for a very long time. Yes, Carl, we know. Get that man a new auto cue.
We need to get him to say something different. Like take that phrase, plug it through GPT, and just be like, rephrase to have more oomph or something. Like just anything. No, but you know what's cool
give me
though?
20 variations of this sentence.
Yes, and then go one by one for the next 10 interviews that you do, right? Like, but the significant thing about that though is that if someone takes the time to go look at who he actually is, and then they hear him with that resume saying that,
yeah,
it definitely grabs people's attention. And I think that's probably his thinking in repeating that. It's like,
yeah,
he's being very blunt.
would agree.
It's an interesting time, man. It feels like this disclosure process is still moving along. I had a moment. I wanted to tell you about this, and I wanted to actually save it for the show. But real quick, I was scrolling through Reddit the other day, and I wanted like an overview of. I have a collection of different subreddits that all fall into one stream. But it's a bunch of different subreddits, but it's all connected to UFOs. Now, I have my issues with Reddit, but there's good people on Reddit as well. But there's a lot of infiltration and a lot of weird stuff that happens on there as well. A lot of astroturfing and such. But we're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it's just like the continuous flow of news or comments or revelations related to this subject is kind of absurd. Like it's like an avalanche right now. It's real. I mean, really, you just got to go look. It seems like there's a new piece of news every week now. There hasn't really been too many lulls. Like we would have like the up, down, the up and down. There hasn't been a lot of down lately. And then I also see, like good example is the Super Bowl. I said the night of the Super Bowl, I said to my parents, I was like, watch, there's gonna be at least like 3 or 4 commercials that have UFOs. I promise you. And lo and behold, I'm like, this is, I'm telling you. And then look at Spielberg's movie, man. It's called Disclosure.
Yeah, and that's interesting is because it wasn't actually the original title, and he's now
That was
actually
the
changed
dish.
the title. Yeah. So Spielberg's an interesting one, and I've kind of covered this already, but you know, I wonder if this is part of the disclosure process. It's really easy to get people used to things like this when it starts slipping its way into, you know, mainstream media and movies and music and everything like that. You know, it's an easy way to get people used to it. And I think that's been happening for a while. But as I say, I think if we start seeing movement of disclosure from any government or country around the world, I think now it's more of a result of a knee-jerk reaction to what's happening that they can't keep up with otherwise.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
So, you know, people calling for disclosure, people like the guys at Skywatcher who aren't waiting around for the US government to do something, you know, the government is going to have to catch up. And we're starting to see that now. We're already starting to see that now. And this leads us on to our first talking point, which is Anomalous Luna's Taskforce for Declassification and Transparency. This was announced earlier on this week at a press conference. And I think the best thing to do is just go straight into this first clip.
All for being here. Today is a great day for transparency in America because today I'm proud to announce the creation of the Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets. This task force will be a part of the House Oversight Committee and led by the very talented and persistent Congresswoman from Florida, Anomalous Luna.
For too long, the American spirit has been dimmed by a veil of secrecy, by a government that has grown too comfortable in the shadows, denying us the transparency we deserve. But today, we stand at the dawn of a new era where the light of truth begins to shine through. A few weeks ago, President Donald Trump made a historic announcement. With the stroke of a pen, he committed to declassifying the files concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a decision not just monumental, but pivotal. It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long.
There's Anna Paulina Luna speaking. I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday this week. Exciting stuff, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, look.
But I have reservations. Tom, you go first.
I do too. So again, and this isn't against Anna either. Okay. I'm keeping politics out of this. I'm looking at this from a very pragmatic viewpoint. I'm looking at this just in the purity of what is being said and what the goals are. This is a monumental effort. There are a lot of secrets hidden within the files of the U.S. government. We all know this. So it's going to be quite challenging to really unearth the answers that we want. Of course, they're going to pull things out that weren't known, but my concern is that the bits and pieces that would really give us all of the answers that we're really looking for might be much harder to find, and some of them may have even been destroyed. We just don't know. But there has to be an effort like this. It has to happen, whether it's being done by a Democratic or Republican administration. Something has to be done. We need to reestablish trust between the American people and the United States government, or it's never going to function properly, and this country is going to collapse.
So there's several interesting takeaways from this, and we've got some more clips because Anna Paulina Luna has spoken more about it since. But UAP, UFO aside, talking about RFK, JFK, origins of COVID-19, all of this stuff is really exciting. Epstein, client list, great. We're more likely to get more truth about the JFK and RFK assassinations than we are about UAP. Shall I tell you why? Because the people that were involved in it are all dead. There's nothing to hide. And the worst thing you can do to tell people that you're coming after the information that they've got on UFOs is by telling them that you're coming to get it, because it will all just be destroyed. It will be, we're not going to get full transparency from this, I don't think. I think it's interesting, and I think it's going to move the needle in the sense that just by them investigating it, public perception will change. So in that sense, it's great. We have another clip here that Anna Paulina Luna put on her X page, which goes in a bit more in depth. And there's one key point of this that I found was very interesting, and we can talk about afterwards.
On the declassification of federal secrets has been organized under the House Oversight Committee and represents a historic step towards transparency and delivering answers to the American people. President Trump has already taken steps to deliver to the American people information that for far too long has been kept under the federal government's lock and key through classification. Under Executive Order 14176, President Trump has directed the federal government to prepare reports regarding the declassification of records regarding the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. The task force will also examine agencies' knowledge and possession of documents regarding other areas of significant public interest, including UAPs, the origins of COVID-19, the Epstein client list, and details surrounding the death of Osama bin Laden in Operation Neptune Spear. Our first hearing is March and will focus on the assassination of President Kennedy. We have already engaged with relevant agencies to provide briefings this month regarding the universe of documents connected to these areas of interest. Upon receiving these briefings, we'll move immediately to review documents and, if necessary, earmark them for release to the American people. The task force will travel as necessary to conduct research and meet with relevant witnesses and experts who may also be called to speak in a public setting. We will work closely with the committee to provide transparency through hearings, reports, and the release of documents. It's important to note that we don't have documents yet, and we also don't hold declassification authority. The task force seeks to operate with coordination with the administration to ensure that the American people receive the documents needed to answer questions that we have been all asking for far too long. We will regain the trust of the American people through transparency.
It needs to happen. It has to somehow, some way. I don't care who does it. Just there has to be a reestablishment of trust. There has to be. I mean, it's terrible.
My key takeaway from that, which I found very, very interesting, was the fact that they do not hold declassification authority. So, what use is any of this?
That is, yeah. I mean, unless they have some plan in place, do they hold any type of subpoena power in regards to this? I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it plays out, right, Digby? Like maybe they have a plan in place where they can bring in these experts, funnel people in, have some sort of hearing, and that maybe that would nudge the right officials into taking those types of actions that do have that power, right? Maybe it'll be by sort of by association, perhaps. Again, I'm not really 100% sure on how this is going to work, but I see that is a major concern. Yes, absolutely.
My key thing on this is I feel that this is, again, just enough effort to keep people amused and entertained, and that nothing is actually going to come from it whatsoever. I just don't think that it is. I think that we will get something about JFK, as I said, because all the people involved are dead, and it's pretty widely accepted now that the CIA were involved and it was an inside job. Nobody is going to be surprised. It's not going to shatter everybody's beliefs and religion and everything like that. Okay, JFK, Epstein client list, maybe we'll get that, but we'll just get the names. I doubt that we would ever see proof of how many times they visited the island or anything like that. And I think the Epstein client list is also an interesting one because, some people will have gone to Epstein's island for business, to do business,
right,
without
absolutely.
any knowledge of anything that was going on there.
True.
And some people were dirty little SOBs that deserve to spend the rest of their life in jail. Probably most of Hollywood, which is probably just as well that AI is so good right now because we won't need them anymore.
No kidding, right?
But the Epstein list is a difficult one. And also there are very powerful people around the world whose names are on that list that are going to do everything they can to stum it. JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King. Yeah, I think we'll get something. But UAP disclosure, I'm not too...
not as part of this. No.
Which moves on to the last point from Anna Paulina Luna, and then we'll move over to the next subject.
This is typically set for 6 months, and this is the first time that we're actually getting a task force that's going to be focusing. And so I'm hoping to set up a congressional delegation to a friendly country that actually has a fully declassified program, has a program for disclosure that's already been set up, which to my knowledge those exist. But also to looking into what we can get declassified from the Pentagon if there is anything. The Secretary of State, as you know, Rubio has been very supportive.
And now, this is a lot. Epstein, 9/11, UAPs. But are you going to get a staff?
Yeah, we have a staff. So we have multiple attorneys working. We have actually the entire oversight staff is at our disposal to work on this.
And
so credit to Red Panda Koala from X there for putting that clip together and also ask a poll for the interview. Now, there are two key takeaway points from that. First of all, number one was the fact that they're going to reach out to a friendly country that already has a plan in place for disclosure.
Yeah, and I know you had a theory about that as well, and I think your theory is different than mine.
I'm thinking we're probably looking at a South American country. I was thinking that it was going to be perhaps somewhere else, but they said friendly country. So I think that takes out the equation China or Russia.
Yeah, you would think, right? Naturally.
But you never know. Look, it's definitely not the UK. The UK has no plan for disclosure whatsoever. No. They don't even entertain this. They are so far behind.
I don't know why.
It's untrue. From my point of view, from my understanding, the royal family has had a massive interest in this and involvement in this for an incredibly long time. So maybe they're just not touching it because of the involvement of the royal family. I'm not sure. Also, I think that when the truth comes out, there's a lot of things in the background about UAP disclosure, NHI disclosure, and there's a lot of parallels between that and the seedy goings on behind the scenes with the Epstein client list. And let's put it this way, we've got all the same bad guys in the background that are involved in both. Okay, so it is my understanding from what I've heard from people that I trust that there is a dark, seedy, horrible undertone to all of this. Not necessarily from the NHI itself, but certainly from what us idiot humans have done with what we've got.
We have heard that from pretty interesting places, haven't we, Digby?
Yeah. Annie 07 has put Canada there, and I don't want to offend any Canadians right now, but if America sneezes, Canada catches a cold, right? America's defense budget helps to defend Canada. I don't think Canada has got a disclosure plan for itself. I would say that Israel is a potential, mainly because the Israeli defense minister who came out a few years ago and spoke about what they had been doing in Israel. That's a potential, but I do think it's probably a South American country.
I had two guesses. First was Japan. Based on some of the research that's come out of Japan in regards to UAP over the last few years, some of the statements made by elected officials in Japan that were fairly transparent. They show an interest in it as well. And then on kind of an equal footing, my other guess is Brazil. They held essentially their own UAP Congress a few years ago. That was, unfortunately, it kind of flew under the radar, but it's still available. I believe I even have a recording of it somewhere in my archive. And yes, when I say I have an archive, Digby, a lot of people, I have a very, very vast archive of data, media, and such that I keep personally on my computer. And that hearing that they had in Brazil, it really didn't pull back. It didn't really hold any punches. It really went for it. They were talking about abductions. They were talking about injuries and things of that nature. They went across the full spectrum of the positive and negative data. So I think it's going to be either Japan or Brazil. Is my guess.
Yeah, possibly. I don't think, certainly after our conversation last week with Joshua McDowell, I certainly don't think it's Peru anytime soon, because they seem to be actively working against it with what they're hiding and the information they're hiding about the Nazca mummies. So
my brother is in Peru right now. Isn't that funny?
How funny.
For a wedding.
Tell him to go and check out the mummies. The other interesting point from that interview with Askapol was the fact that she said that the task force was set up for the next 6 months. So it's only for the next 6 months. So in the next 6 months, they intend on declassifying and releasing all the information about JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King, the origins of COVID-19, Epstein client list, and disclosure of UAP.
That's a lot.
I think there's been a slow drip for disclosure for a very long time, because they need the public to sort of acclimatize.
8 years of it, at least.
Yeah, at least. But now all of a sudden they're going to release all these things in the next 6 months. Get over.
I don't see it happening, man. You and I both done. Listen, I don't want to be pessimistic. You know me. I'm usually the optimist in the room, but I don't think that's enough time to get all that done. I mean, if it starts something good, maybe then they'll be able to, exceed that 6 month time span and be able to go further into the future. But I come on, just the JFK thing alone probably needs more than 6 months to really, really hone things in and get your ducks in a row. But all of that all at once, it's, again, I'm happy to see that something is being done. And I don't know if Representative Luna's heart is really in the right place. I mean, it seems that way. But I feel like she's if that's the case, she's going to run into some trouble herself. She's going to run into some difficulties.
I trust Annapolina Luna, I think. I don't think I fully trust... Actually, no, I don't trust Nancy Mace at all. I just don't get the right vibes off that woman. I'm sorry. I think that she has ulterior motives. With the whole thing with Jeremy Corbell as well, that didn't seem right by me. Yeah, I don't trust her. But we'll see. Anyway, let's move on to the next segment. Now, this was found. I found this on X. I've forgotten the name of the guy who I found it from. Tom, who was it?
I believe it was Reed Summers.
Yeah. Reed Summers, that was it. So this was on Reed Summers' X page. I don't know the origins of it, so I'm not claiming this is 100% real. But this is a recording of retired U.S. Army Special Forces Captain William English talking about an event during the Vietnam War.
On was a fully intact B-52 aircraft that looked like it had just been grabbed out of the sky and gently put down on the ground. There was no crash. There was no sign of a crash. There was no crash trail or anything like that, which we thought was pretty odd to begin with. And we managed to gain entry through one of the emergency escape hatches, where we found the entire crew still strapped in their seats, mutilated like cattle. Tongues were missing. Closer examination showed that jaws were scraped clean. One of my guys took one of the bodies out of the seat and discovered that his rectum and genitals had been literally cored out like a biscuit cutter had been used. In the process of all of this, we had taken photographs of everything we found, and we got the hell out of there. In Saigon, we turned over all of our films, all the documents, maps, and everything else that we had collected. We were basically told, you will die if you disclose any of this information, so keep your traps shut.
It's quite a harrowing story, that really. First instincts for me, listening to the guy talking and the tone of his voice and everything, I don't feel like he's making it up. It sounds absolutely horrific, and God rest the souls of everybody that was on that B-52. But I mean, Tom, I showed this to you earlier for the first time. And you were suggesting what he was going to say next before he'd even said it, because so many of the key points there we've heard time and time again.
Yeah, specifically the part they're showing I guess it was probably AI generated, the gentleman walking through the cockpit.
That was annoying that it was repeated over and over and over again. We didn't generate that video, by the way, so we took it. So
no, it would have taken me much longer because there would have been way more clips in it, right? But it doesn't matter. It really does get the point across, though. Honestly, yeah, they're walking through the cockpit, and when he was talking about the state that they were finding the crew in, they're talking about scrape this and this was cut out, and I was like, genitalia. Like, I knew that was coming next because it sounds like a human version of a cattle mutilation.
Absolutely, 100%.
100% sounds like that. I mean, immediately.
Now, for me, anybody that tells you that NHI is completely and utterly benevolent is talking out of their complete arse. Sorry, and we'll get onto this a bit later, but nothing to do with NHI is completely benevolent. There is absolute malintent, but not all experiences are like this. People, I was talking about my past experiences the other day on X in a thread, And people were saying to me, "Oh, do you think, what do you think their intentions are?" And I was like, "That's like saying, what's the intentions of mankind? There are warfaring nations out there. Unfortunately, the UK and the US are one of them. But there's some pretty bad people out there. There's also some pretty amazing people out there that would do anything for anybody else. You can't say that all NHI are bad. You can't say they are all good, because there's balance in everything, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a pretty harrowing story there, from an event, obviously in Vietnam. And it's just amazing the way that he describes it. And it's just like the plane didn't land. There was nowhere for it to land. It had just been taken out the sky and plopped.
What did that
place.
remind you of? It reminded me of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the film where they find the planes out in the desert. Digby. So we won't spend too much time on this, obviously, because we don't have like a ton of information outside of the clip. But I want to point out some things and hear your thoughts. So cattle mutilations, right? Because that's what this is so similar to. It often, almost every time, and this is how any cattle remains get lumped into that particular subgenre. Like, okay, this is not like an animal that attacked this cow. It often involves very precise surgical removal of organs and the complete drainage of blood. All right. Blood is a rich source of DNA, as we know. Hormones and even other biochemical markers. So that makes it valuable, at least even from like a human perspective, for research, cloning, genetic analysis. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about them like cloning celebrities or any of that shit. That's not where I'm going with that. But removing the blood ensures that harvested organs will remain uncontaminated, and that would preserve their integrity for experimentation or study. And then obviously you are going to take the organs. The organs taken, which is often, and obviously in this case, the very same thing, reproductive tissues, glands, or some other uncommon selections. That would suggest an interest specifically in genetic material, unique biochemicals, or even bioengineering applications. These tissues sometimes contain critical enzymes, reproductive cells, or other biocompounds that could be used in cloning, hybridization, or synthetic biology. And of course, what do we know and what have we heard from abductees and experiencers for decades now? That there is some type of hybridization program going on. And it seems like parts of the community will talk about that to length. And then there are some that are like, no, that's not happening. They don't want to touch it. I find it very disturbing and very startling that we see what happens with cattle. Just that alone it bothers me. I'm like, what is that about? Then you hear something like this, and it makes you wonder, is it coming from the same source as far as who or what is doing it, and for the same purposes? And how many more times has this happened that nobody knows about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Look, it's an interesting, it's an interesting story or account of what had happened. I'd love to know more. I'm going to dig into it and find out who this guy is, and see if we can find some more information about it.
Maybe get him on.
Well, Well, I don't know how old the recording is and how old the gentleman is. So
yeah, that is true.
We'll dig into it. Next one we're going to talk about is Area 51 veterans who are now mysteriously all showing signs of cancer.
Air Force veterans and a DoD contractor say they have been sickened, even disfigured, after being stationed in the desert in the mid-'80s to early '90s.
Did you have any idea what you were being exposed to?
None. None of us knew.
These veterans say they served at the Nevada Test and Training Range, which encompasses the infamous Area 51, a remote spot that hosted nuclear testing both underground and atmospheric. Since the 1950s, their work so secret there would be no record that the men ever served in the windswept desert.
It was the technology behind it. That's what we were there to make sure nobody got.
They still can't talk about most of their work on the range, but the one mission they can now disclose, guarding the F-117 Nighthawk, America's first stealth bomber.
We ended the Cold War, truly.
Oh, wow. The story begins with a reunion barbecue back in 2016 at veteran Dave Creet's Las Vegas home. Air Force buddies who hadn't seen each other in decades make a startling discovery.
So I asked the guys, we're just sitting around drinking beers. I said, you guys, I got this lump on my back. And I don't know, has anybody else got that?
I said, yeah, I had one of those. I had it removed. It was the size of a grapefruit.
6 out of the 8 vets had benign tumors called lipomas. The 7th said, I don't have any, but my son was born with one.
I just kind of confirmed it. There was an issue. Where we were, that's the one common denominator, is we were all there.
A DoD contractor who worked at the base at the same time as these vets sickened.
Yeah, they took the teeth out first because they had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
They had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
2 cancers, 80% of his tongue removed, along with his vocal cords, all of his teeth. He lives on a feeding tube. The veterans tell News Nation their medical claims are being denied by Veterans Affairs. The work so top secret, their records are what's called data masked, as if they were never there.
It's like a kick in the gut. It's just a matter of betrayal.
After learning of the serious health conditions his Air Force brothers were suffering from, Dave did some research on the Nevada test site. Hundreds of nuclear weapons tests were conducted in the area from the 50s until the early 90s. In the 1970s, the government began exploring the idea of building a military installation there to house classified projects. A 1975 Department of Defense environmental report of the area acknowledges nuclear contamination, depleted uranium, beryllium, and plutonium present before the men were sent by the government to the range. But the report says, quote, discontinuing the work done would be against the national interest.
It's one thing to be ignorant, or to be naive, to not know, but they've understood for a long time.
Dave's discoveries led him to create the Invisible Enemy, an advocacy group where he says he's connected with more than 1,000 veterans who served at the Nevada test site. Hundreds of them report being sick.
We were in the dirt all the time. I can recall the times where when we'd perspire, that our uniforms would turn kind of a yellowish orange.
Our government knew that area was contaminated. So knowing that, and they willfully put us there, that's given somebody a death sentence.
It's horrific. And you've got to think, why are they specifically sending people to go and do things in an area that they know is already contaminated? I mean, look, come on, we all know what goes on in the Nevada desert and Area 51. The very fact that their records are still sealed and they still can't talk about things that they were doing there, apart from the bomber, suggests that the stuff that they were working on at the time is still top secret, still can't be spoken about. So what were they working on, and what's the best way of working on something that's probably got some weird radiological signature, radioactive material, is by doing it somewhere that's already registered as being radioactive.
Look at the people that you and I have interacted with that have dealt with illnesses and such because of their interactions with or coming in very close proximity to UAP, right? But it's not even just that, too. It's not, some of this may be something obviously very profound and extraordinary, but also just the fact that we were testing nuclear weapons out in the desert, and then just, I mean, that we have footage of the soldiers just walking right towards the mushroom clouds, you know? It's bizarre, and it's evil to an extent. You know, I see there's a comment in the chat here from Jackson. It says these ladies and gentlemen are so loyal. Just think these handful to the hundreds or thousands who haven't come forward because of their patriotism. You know, there's got to be a line in the sand here, man. You know, because I feel like you asked a question, Digby. You said, you know, why would they willingly and knowingly send them into an area that's already contaminated? And I feel like the fuckhead answer they're going to give us is going to be national security. And well, in that case, for these gentlemen, they can take that national security and they can shove it up their fucking ass.
Yep.
There's a limit. There's a line in the sand morally in my mind. And I understand there are men and women that are willing to do this and sacrifice themselves. And that's heroic and brave. But I feel like some of this could be avoided. And you know what else this makes me think of? This makes me think of what Grush was talking about when he was saying that they were able to take the laws and classification system that was put in place specifically for nuclear materials, and because UAP and some of those, these extraordinary non-human technologies give off any bit of radioactivity or any of that, they're able to classify all of that together, lump it all into one thing. And I find it very interesting that these gentlemen, too, I will say, specifically can't even talk about what it was that they were even working on. And that makes me wonder, though, because I've seen stories like this before, and they were very blunt and clear about what they were doing. It was atomic weapons. So that does make me wonder. It does make me pause and say, hey, maybe it was something unusual, perhaps. But regardless, it makes me sick. It does. It really bothers me a lot, because we have friends in the community like Jason Sands, for example, that we're close with, that have just been through so much shit that people don't even know about. I couldn't even imagine walking a mile in their shoes, man. I really can't.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll touch on Jason again towards the end of the show. But
we will.
I've got something I want to get off my chest.
Anyway, let's move on to something a little less dark. I think actually quite a lot of things we've been talking about today have been quite horrific. Let's move on. So Ross Coulthart has just recently done a show with our good friend Vinny Adams over on Disclosure Team. Vinny, I've stolen this from your podcast. I hope you don't mind. I'm sure you won't. But Ross here is touching on, everybody talks about 2027, 2034, there's something coming, it's coming towards Earth, or it's the time for disclosure, and it's been talked about. In fact, Jason even said that through his communications that he was overhearing 2027 was brought up a lot. Then
I'm making a video about it right now.
Yeah, there you go.
The whole thing. So there you go.
And then you've got Jeremy Corbell saying that they're going to push this narrative and it's all rubbish. So let's hear what Ross Coulthart has got to say on the matter.
Let's go.
Simply, I don't know. I've heard 2027. I've heard 2034. I hear stories of catastrophes. I hear stories of arrivals. They're just stories. I mean, how do you corroborate things like that? I mean, that's the problem I have with, for example, things like abductions and mutilations. Unless I'm there to see it, how do you prove this stuff? So if somebody says to me, as has been said to me, that 2027 is going to be a big year, and then later on I hear 2034 is going to be a big year, frankly, I don't know. I mean, I really have no idea. But yeah, I mean, there are people who say that there are time limits. I certainly think this. I think the NHI, whatever it is prodding humanity's awareness of itself. And I think that the so-called drones are part of that. Not all of it, but part of that. I think that what's happening is there is a deliberate engagement by the NHI with certain people. You know, they're trying to prod human consciousness. And I find it really interesting, the number of people I meet who have suddenly developed an interest in the phenomenon after they've had one or two weird, anomalous encounters. It's like what's happening is the NHI is showing itself to people.
Wow, that's a really interesting statement, especially from Ross, man. I've seen his entire development from when he first got into this, and to hear the way that he talks now is really interesting to see that evolution.
Yeah, I think he's right here. Nobody really knows what's coming. So for anybody to say something's definitely happening 2027 or definitely 2034. Nobody can say that. And also plans change all the time. From my understanding is that the 2027 thing was basically a deadline for us to give back shit that doesn't belong to us, or there's going to be trouble. And people took that to mean that it's going to be the end of the world or a massive war of the worlds or whatever. And it probably just means that the people who nicked it are going to be in trouble. Do you know what I mean? I'm not holding out for 2027. I'm not holding out for 2034. I think that we are on a path of disclosure right now. We're on a path of, grassroots disclosure. And I think more is going to come out this year. I'm not holding my breath till 2027. I think, when we see what's already happened this year, it feels like we've lived 6 months already of this year, and we're 16th of February. I mean, it's been pretty fast paced. We just need to keep the pressure up, keep the interest up, and we're going to get somewhere, I think.
I'll make a good point, honestly, about this asteroid, though. I will say that I will bring this up because I talked about this in the space the other night, and I don't know if you knew about this, Digby. Well, you know about part of it. There's a website.
There's a website?
There's a website, okay? This is where it starts. And it's thousands and thousands and thousands of articles that have been written in these weird ciphers on this website for years. And AI is able to decode it. Now, so some people say, though, that the most perfect and coherent translation of it has to be done by hand, but you still get the general idea of what is being said.
The gist.
Yes, and some of it is in regular English phonetic letters, and some of it is not. Some of it's like in Hebrew, some of it's in Arabic. But if you run it through AI, it will spit information out, and it will tell you what it's talking about. And there are these little clues in there where they are written in English. Now, there was an article on there that I found that I ran through AI, and it talks about an asteroid in 2027, and this was posted years ago. So I find that weird. Okay, I'm not saying anything's happening either. I'm just saying it's another breadcrumb and another clue. There's a lot of stuff on there. I mean, good luck trying to go through all of it. It would just take you the longest time. But it goes through everything: NHI, consciousness, artificial intelligence. Like, it is literally, if for people that like rabbit holes, this is a wet dream of a rabbit hole. I mean, really, it is amazing. It is, but this is going to be in my video that I'm doing, where I've tried to compile as much as I possibly can about this whole narrative, from John Ramirez to this potential sock puppet account that people think Blue Elizondo was using, which again I can't confirm. I have no idea. And then Leslie Keane on Virgin Mungle. There's just a lot there for some reason. I don't look at this as the same thing as like 2012, because this isn't coming from like an ancient calendar. This is like, this kind of just came out of nowhere, and it's hard to put your finger on what the actual source is. It's very odd. The whole thing is very strange.
It's just been said, can you put the link to that site in the chat, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to actually grab it for you guys now, and I'll give you the link. Well, actually, I'll give you the link to the specific article and then the base website. So, yeah, let me grab that for everybody real quick.
While Tom's doing that, let's move over to another comment from Ross about Tulsi Gabbard's appointment as the Director of National Intelligence. Where's my mouse gone? There it is.
What I take great heart from is that in the wake of that tragedy, they created the Director of National Intelligence, whom Tulsi Gabbard is now going to be the head of. And she's going to, and she's very avowedly determined to do so, she's going to try to investigate the UAP secrecy. And if they find failures of oversight, if they find criminal fraud, concealment, which I know they're going to find if they look, it's all going to come out. And at the moment, it's really interesting because I think the defence aerospace community can hardly believe what's going on, because they've had this cosy little secret now for years, and all they've ever needed to do is put a stiff in a suit and a uniform and walk up to people and mumble, national security, can't talk about it, but, it'd be good if you didn't take this any further. And people just meekly roll over and accept it. And, we all know the usual suspects in Congress that have done that for so long. But there is a cultural change happening here, because the American taxpayer is entitled to ask, what's happening with my money? Why can't we fix bridges in Baltimore? Why are our roads falling apart? Why are there record numbers of homeless people? Why is the health system such a disaster? And a large part of the reason is because of vast amounts of money are unaccountably going into the bottomless pit of national security expenditure. And as Elon Musk's Doge has politely asserted this week, they cannot account for trillions of dollars. And now they're being told they have to do an audit. They have to account for every single line item.
Yeah. Now, doing an audit. This is going to be interesting, right? Tulsi Gabbard. I think great. Her appointment as Director of National Intelligence. Whether it's actually going to move the needle, I'm not too sure. But Doge, as he called it, or Doge.
I can't even believe that they named it that. The whole thing is just unbelievable.
Yes. But that's going to be interesting when they finally get made to do an audit and pass an audit. And then are we going to see, where all this money's being spent?
You can't pass it, Digby. They can't.
Well, no, they can't pass it. They still have to do it. And we're still going to get to see potentially, certainly, I don't know. Is it just going to be listed as missing, or are we going to see where it went? Who knows? But one thing, and I'm not getting political here. I'm not even interested in talking or answering anybody's questions in the comment section when it gets down to politics. But it is interesting to see the whole Doge thing coming out and them ripping money out of departments of wasting money, or starting to explain where money is being spent. So are there people in government right now that are furiously rejecting or going against Elon because they are trying to stop any further progress before he gets into the departments where he can really start to expose stuff?
I'm sure there's a lot of different things that are happening at once here. There's some of that. There's some people where it's probably more just political based. There's the groups that are like, this Elon guy, he's just some tech billionaire. Why the hell would we let him blah, blah. There are a lot of angles to this. However, one thing is for certain. The Pentagon has never passed an audit. Donald Rumsfeld, as we know, on September 10th, 2001, said it himself, that they couldn't track, I think it was like $2.4 trillion in spending. And then the next day, as we know. So this has been going on for a very, very, very long time. And listen, a lot of people look at the government as like one entity, but it's not. It's a spider web of a lot of different parts. And they just all collectively get called government. I don't know how they're going to make any type of progress on this, Digby, because it's not like nobody has ever tried to get to the bottom of this before. It's not. This is a different version of that, but I have to heavily lean in the direction of it remains to be seen, and I am not optimistic about that. But call them out for it, because I do. Call them out. You have to.
Yeah, I mean, are they going to... Look, are they going to find anything when they do audits? Probably not, that we will see. But will it put systems in place to make sure that money is accounted for better in the future and make things more difficult for them in the future? Perhaps that will happen. But,
I hope so.
We will see. I did have one last clip here from Ross Colhart. But do you know what? I'm not going to go through it. Basically, it was because I don't want to... It's taking a political lean, and I want to avoid that. But it was basically Ross was talking about the fact that he believes that Donald Trump potentially could be the disclosure president. And all I will say on that is, if he does end up being the disclosure president, it won't be because that's what he's decided to do. It will be a knee-jerk reaction because it's happening anyway, and he wants to, not take ownership of it, but control the narrative of it, as any government around the world would do. I think that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's pretty much in line with my thinking, and I think people should just get away from the idea of a disclosure president and just focus on disclosure itself. I don't care
Indeed.
who the president is at this point in relation to this. I am very unplugged. Oh, there's bubbles on your screen. It's doing that thing again.
Thumbs up.
I don't care who I say very unplugged from
Where's
politics.
the fireworks? It never works when you want it to, that thing. But yeah, there we go. Right, next, let's get a bit juicy. I'm just going to play this for you, and then we're going to talk.
A point where I believe everything is poised to come out. There's growing bipartisan support in Congress for this, as you saw yesterday in the press conference with Congresswoman Luna, who I have personally briefed on this issue, and others who were there, like Mr. Burchett, but people like Mr. Moskowitz, who is on the task force originally, who I've discussed this with. I think there is strong bipartisan support to get to the bottom of this. The problem is they're being advised very badly by people who swoop in and create these false narratives of threat and false narratives of we don't have anything like this.
Right.
This is going to be this spicy portion of the show brought to you by Digby.
Stephen Greer is a complete grifting piece of shit. Let's start right there. First of all, he came out earlier on this week and decided to take a pop at our good friend Jason Sands, which really pissed me off, telling him that he should stay in his lane. Where this man gets off telling everybody else what to do like he's some fucking Jesus of disclosure really fucking pisses me off. Now, Tom and I had a Zoom call with Stephen Greer about 6 months ago, which we had to sign an NDA for before we were even allowed to speak to him. So for that reason, I'm not going to mention anything that was discussed in that phone call because, quite frankly, he's got more money than me and I don't want to be sued by him. But that doesn't stop me from telling you all what I personally think of this person from the way that he treated us on that call and the way that he spoke to a member of his staff during that call. Why anybody volunteers to work for that man when he talks to them like an absolute piece of shit on the bottom of their shoe is absolutely beyond me. Seriously, I've never heard. I mean, I've been in business for about 25 years with employees, and I pay them, and I still don't talk to them the way that he spoke to this person who's volunteering their time for free. If he thinks he's ever just literally done anything to have a meeting with any president or anything like that, whatever, absolute bullshit. Maybe spoken to one of their team or something like that. But if you think Stephen Greer is briefing Donald Trump, it's more likely that he's briefed Donald Trump's janitor. Seriously, I cannot stand this man. Everything he preaches as if he is the voice of NHI out here spreading the word of NHI like it's a fucking religion. Yeah, you think out of all the people on the face of this planet, if the NHI were going to turn to one person to spread the message of light and love and respect and honor and all these things that he spouts off all the time, do you think they would choose Stephen fucking Greer? End of.
My turn. So you did all those parts, so I'll do a different part. As a UFO researcher and someone who is an experiencer that knows that these things are out here and that they exist, and my life has been personally touched by it. That's why I take the subject so seriously. Whereas if you're not an experiencer, you might find it interesting, but I think there's a distinct cutoff there. Especially for people that don't know much about it and have never had an interaction with it. It doesn't hit you the same way. I have been doing this for a very, very long time personally before I ever got publicly involved in the community. I used to watch every video that Stephen Greer put out. I will give Stephen Greer credit where credit is due. He has done good things. We are all aware of what those good things are. We have said them many, many different times. We've spoken about them. The Press Club, Part 1, Part 2. We've all been there. We know that. My problem is that there are clear indicators in the fucking data that suggest that there are multiple intelligences that do not adhere to the same command structure, to specifically quote our friend Gary Nolan. There are different motives at play. There are different goals in play from different groups. Some of them might be from another dimension. Some of them might be simply interplanetary. Some of them might be something we don't have a name for yet, right? Now, we were told that the narrative that Mr. Greer has is the only narrative, and that all other narratives are wrong. That if it didn't fall in line with what he knows is going on, that it was disinformation and a threat. So, for example, if we were to have someone come on our podcast that has a narrative that does not align with Mr. Greer's, he basically wanted to vet us for that and didn't want to come on our show if it didn't properly sync with what he was telling us. I'll give one example. Again, I'm trying to be very careful with what I say here because we signed NDAs and all that, but this stuff is out in the public, so we know that, right? You guys know I don't like tearing people down. I don't like doing segments like this. But we're friends with Jason Sands, and who catches a lot of hell. You can believe him. You cannot believe him. That's fine. But we have been interacting with that man for almost a year now, and he has never, ever, ever been anything but just the ultimate gentleman in our direction. Has shown unbelievable humility and character and has done things that none of you know about, that we know about, that we wish we could scream his praises to the mountaintops, but he asks us not to because he doesn't want to be a superhero out in the public. He just wants to do his part, and that's that. So Greer, and this is public, so I can say this. Greer in this conversation with us mentioned something that, again, is out in the public sphere, that the Greys were built by, like, the military in the 40s. Then why are there cave paintings of things that look so similar to them from thousands of years ago? I'm sorry. I have been researching this subject for over 25 years, and at no point have I come across anything remotely reasonable to suggest that that is the case. And some of the other items of interest that I won't go into specifics about, I have seen absolutely zero reason to believe any of them. Hell, he said he briefed Hal Puthoff, and Hal Puthoff was like, what? I've never met that guy. So I would like, if anybody wants to ask Luna or Moskowitz or any of these people that he says that he's briefed, please, because I'm 2 seconds away from doing it myself and being like, hey, did you talk to Greer?
Well,
and if that's the case, fine.
Somebody already has. They tagged them in it, but they haven't responded, funnily enough. But also, if they are getting briefed by Greer, sorry, I'm out of breath. My daughter came running.
Oh, my mom is in the chat.
Fallen over. Hello, mom. So I'm a bit out of breath. I had to run her off somewhere. But if they are getting briefed by Greer, then we've got no hope. Seriously,
love you, Mom.
Tom, I had to run out off because my daughter was crying.
It's okay.
Before.
No, the
so
shadow
I didn't hear
box.
what you were saying.
It's all right. It's everything you've heard me say before. The shadow box. That was a gift from my mother, and she built it. And I totally want to sing her praises for a moment. I love my mom. But yeah, no, it's just that he told us that his narrative was the only narrative, and and I just don't agree with that personally.
What I wanted to check: did you cover the part about what he said when we asked if he would appear on the show? Did you cover that?
That he had to vet who our guests were first.
Imagine being so up your own arse that you think you have the right to vet a podcast's previous guests before you will agree to go
As
on
if
their
we're
show.
like super famous or so, you know. And again, a lot of you guys know who we are, and we love you and we appreciate you. But come on, yeah, we don't have millions and millions and millions and millions of people that know who we are, like Greer. And he's talking about vetting our podcast, but not just that.
It's not
Can I
vetting
talk about
our
the
podcast. No, it was more to do, not even just about vetting our podcast. It was like, if we had ever had a guest on that he doesn't agree with,
right,
he won't come on.
That's
He
right.
also
If it
talked-
doesn't
he
align with
also-
his
yeah.
narrative.
He also does the same thing for conferences. He won't go to a conference if somebody he doesn't like has been there before or there the same year. It's absolutely...
There's people there. I have shared Twitter spaces with people that I don't agree with and don't necessarily love, and have even that have even done things that I probably should have shit on them for, and I still didn't.
I will interview people on this show that I don't agree with.
100%. I don't know. We're just different. And again, I'm not a fan of doing these types of segments, but we felt that we had, especially Digby too, like we talked about this and we felt that we didn't think it was fair, some of the things that he was saying about Jay, because Jay is our friend. And when we spoke to him, again, I'm trying to be very careful here. And I have it recorded, by the way. I'll say that. It's not public, but I recorded it. And so if there's any issue of if it ever comes to the point where like I have to back this up, trust and believe that I can. It's on my hard drive, and everything that we're saying is true. I didn't like the way that he was speaking to his very, very, very sweet and lovely.
I wouldn't have confirmed that if I was you, Tom.
I don't give a shit. He's never going to see this. He doesn't care about us. We're just the little people, remember? How does he know that's true, too? I could just be lying.
Absolutely.
And I'll be very vague. I didn't like the way he was talking to someone associated with him on that call, and I felt that he lied about something on that call that we very clearly saw. And also, I didn't like the fact that for what we were going to be doing for him, why did I freeze?
I'm glad you've seen that you've frozen too, because your face in the freeze was hilarious.
Yeah, something's chugging. Is it going?
Oh, and he caught up. Are you back with us now, Tom?
Yeah, I think I'm here. A little bit of late.
Greer's tech guys trying to hack into the back end of our show.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. That was very strange. Yeah, bro eyes. Mom say that's an inside joke from the family. Yeah. So okay, there was a statement that he made in our direction as far as requirements for what we were going to be helping him with, and it had to do with the level of our intelligence.
I don't think I was too intelligent enough to be working with Mr. Greer.
And you and I had to basically keep ourselves from laughing our asses off at what he said to us there.
What IQ level was it he said we had to be able to work?
It was like at least 120 or 130 or whatever, which it's like, first of all, we're not going to go into our intelligence quotients live on air because it's just a cocky, stupid thing to do. And I don't like doing that. I've been asked that before.
Who does it though?
I'm not comfortable just like announcing like my intelligence. I've taken an IQ test. It comes off the wrong way. My problem with it is that you are applying this grand level of intelligence as a requirement for essentially like a digital bookkeeping library job, and not even talking about the fact that we can just run your shit through AI and just get it done. And then you're not paying us for it. We're not all we wanted in exchange for what we were going to do was for him to just appear on the show. And it would have been hours and hours and hours of our time doing this. And yet, in the midst of that, we still didn't get a definitive answer as far as he would appear on the show. He wanted us to do all this work, then he wasn't going to pay us, which whatever. But then he still won't give us an answer on if he wanted to or would come on the show. And then he still had to check and see who our guests were and see if it aligned with his narrative. It's just like, dude, it's like, look, I understand. Yeah, you're real famous and whatnot, and we're not, but I don't care. You're still just a person in my eyes, and you're not special. I'm not special. Okay? We're just people. And I'm not going to be treated like that. I just, that's why as soon as he got off that call, I messaged you in the background when we were still with his representative, and I said I want nothing to do with this whatsoever, ever.
Do you know what I didn't appreciate the most? His nipples. Who goes on a Zoom call with two people that potentially he was seeing if they would come and volunteer for him and help for him while you're topless on the beach in Florida?
You know how I know he's not going to sue? You know why I'm not worried about anything I'm saying right now?
Because it's all
because
true?
I've already said this shit like 20 times in Twitter Spaces. I've done it already.
Yeah, I know, but that wasn't on camera on YouTube. But anyway, here we go. It's fine.
The NDA that we signed covered very specific items.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about any of the stuff that was in the NDA. I don't even know what it was for. Actually, I think I ran that NDA through an AI, and there were so many loopholes in it. I don't think
didn't see.
But that's what happens when you get people to work for you for free, Stephen Greer. You know, people's time is worth money, and apparently, you just like keeping all the money for yourself. How big's your house? Sorry. Anyway, I'm done with Stephen Greer. In case you haven't figured out, I think Stephen Greer is a complete fucking asshole, and I would not want nothing to do with him.
For a guy who's so smart, too, because he really is.
Stop swearing before I make no money off this episode
really.
on YouTube. Let's move on. From
for a guy who's so
Stephen
smart, he could be using it for such good, and it's just a shame.
He's the dumbest smart guy I've ever met. Anyway, let's move on to the last part of today's show, which is actually one of my favorite subjects. Me. No, I'm only joking, but it is about me.
It's about Tom. No, it really is about Digby, though. This one, you guys really, this is probably the best part of the show right here. In my opinion, I think this is really going to blow you guys off your chairs. This is weird.
I nicknamed this the brain fart for reasons that you'll see in a minute. So I was a guest on UAP Studies last week. The episode came out on Monday this week. I filmed it the week before, and it was talking about my recent experiences, a couple of abduction experiences, and also this one wasn't so much of an abduction, this part that I was talking about in this clip that you're going to see next, but this was me talking about I woke up in the middle of the night one night and I saw this ghostly figure standing at the end of the bed. I was sitting up in bed. I woke up, sat up in bed, and there was this ghostly white figure standing at the end of my bed. Now, I would describe it as if you've ever seen Harry Potter and know what a Dementor looks like. It was basically that, but white. And I'm standing there looking at this. I'm sitting there looking at this thing standing there, and I'm trying to scream. And instead of me screaming, my scream is coming out of this thing's mouth, and it flies towards me. And as it does, it feels like it goes through my stomach, and it feels like a kick in the stomach. It was not a pleasant experience. It was really, really horrific. Anyway, so I'm talking about this experience to Jason and Katie over at UAP Studies, and one of their eagle-eyed viewers spots this on camera. 5 or 6 weeks ago, I'm asleep, wake up in the middle of the night.
So we removed the audio here from this portion.
Look at the corner of my head. So it goes through a couple of slow-mo times. There we go. Up. Look how it comes up, and then across. Okay, so there's this white, like smoke or something coming out of my head. It's going to do it again in a second. I think, is the video frozen there? The edit's frozen. Let's go back to the beginning here and watch that again. Oh, it's not working, Tom. Let's remove that and play it again. It's doing funny things. Let's just try and add it one more time. No, it won't let me play it. Tom, maybe if you could remove the video and then upload another version of it, perhaps. But a lot of people are saying, oh, no, it's Tom. Tom's gone. Are you still there? Can everybody still hear me? Someone in the chat, say something. Okay, I think we've lost Tom. I'm sure he'll be back briefly. I will fill. So yeah, you can see in this clip that this thing literally comes up and out of my head. I've got a version of it on my computer, so let's load it up again from my side. Here we go. Now it's from about here. Yeah. So let's watch it again. People are saying that it was some smoke. Like, was I using a vape? I wasn't. It's not dust. It's not a lens flare. It doesn't move at the same time as my head. If you look, it comes up and across. Up, comes out of my head, up and across. Who knows? My wife called it a wisp, and somebody else, Laurie, has just said a wisp as well. It's very, very fascinating. I have no idea what it is. Somebody on X said, "Oh God, that's really freaked me out," and I was like, "It freaked you out? It came out of my head." I really don't know what it is. I'd be really interested for any of you to leave a comment and let me know. But I call it my brain fart. So I don't know where Tom's gone. Oh, he's back. He's back.
Well, that
hello, darling.
Completely sucked, but my computer crashed.
Well, he's back now. We were just talking about my brain fart.
I keep telling people
this is why because you left. So
this is why it's extremely appreciated for anybody that sends in super chats or anything like that, because financial situation right now and the computer situation isn't the easiest in the world. So I saw Susan send in the super chat right before. Thank you very much, Susan. Very frustrating. I'm sorry. That made me that actually really made me mad.
Anyway, you're back now.
I worked too damn hard, man.
Look, you're back now. I played the video again because we lost it when we lost you. But I can't figure out what it is. It doesn't make any sense.
I want to make sure to point this out too. We ran down the list of things that we know that it wasn't. Okay, so there's no heavy breeze or anything. This flow of air going through that room. Okay?
No, nothing at all.
You got no fan there. You were not vaping at the time.
No.
It is not light. And I actually specifically talked to my friend Jay about this. After you sent it to me, I was in Discord, in the voice chat with my buddies Jay and Zio. Some of you guys know Zio, my real life friend that I went to high school with. And I showed this to them. And by the end of it, they were like, I have no idea what that is. The way that it almost takes like a very sharp turn too, oddly.
Yeah, it does. Let's go through it again. Look, it literally comes up and then goes across. It does not follow the movement of my head. It looks like it does because it turns at the same time as I do. But I've looked at it frame by frame and it doesn't. And it comes up.
No, it doesn't. It does it just before you even make that movement. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Up and across. I'm sorry, I cannot explain this one little bit. And this was recorded. Nothing has been done to it. Nobody spotted it.
Oh, it happened live.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, did you? That's a great question from Stacy in the chat. Did you feel anything?
No, not that I can remember. I mean, if I did, I wasn't paying attention to it. This came as a complete shock, but there it is. Look, there it is, leaving my head.
I've seen, there's a case, and I forget the name of it, but I brought this up to you, Digby. There's a case that some of you may be familiar with, where this woman was having like poltergeist activity in her house in, I believe, like the early 90s. And they had a film crew in her house, and this gentleman goes up into her attic, and something tries to hang him with like a noose that's up there. There is a ton of footage that they took around like the week that they did this in her house. There was weird liquid dripping from her walls. All types of weird stuff was going on. And there's this one specific clip where it's broad daylight. She's in like her living room and they're just talking to her, just having a basic conversation. And you see these orbs and these weird wispy things like flying in and out of her head. And one of them looks so much like this that it gave me the chills when I saw this clip. When you first sent this to me, I'm like, I don't know, man. Something in my spirit told me immediately that yeah, that's not smoke or anything normal. There's just something about it.
Well, there's nothing
the
normal about
uncanny
the way that
valley.
it's moving. There's nothing normal about the way that it's moving, and I've watched this over and over and over again, and every time I'm more confused now than I was when I started.
Yeah, it is weird, especially.
Look, there's even distortion in round my head when it
Yeah.
sort of comes.
Yeah. It's almost like it was only picked up digitally in some odd way. And please don't forget, we're coupling this with the fact that you were specifically talking about something having jumped into you.
Yes.
And here's something jumping out of you.
A ghostly white figure that flew into me, and here is a white, small but white, ghostly-like figure leaving my head as I'm talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, this is a great comment. This is a great comment from Scale Tipper. I was told when my grandmother died in 1986, before I was born, that 2 nurses bore witness as her soul left her body in a stream of smoke. I was told she was a sweet woman, died around 41. And, you know what's funny about that too, Digby, you know this as well, because I've told you about this, pretty personal. But when my mom's father died, my grandfather, Carmen, my parents were present in the hospital room when he passed, and they saw this they said it almost looked like a hot road on a summer day, like a mirage. That sort of like there was this. My mom describes it as like you could see the life force leave him, like, and it started like near his abdomen and rose up. And she said that like the area above him was like distorted or whatever it was, whatever term that she used around that. So it was very, very powerful and strange experience.
Well, I hope that wasn't part of my soul leaving my body.
I don't think that's the case here. Nah.
Susan Alloway. God bless you, Susan. Hello, hope you're well. How long after the show did you find this on the video? Well, I believe that Jason dropped the show on Monday. I recorded it with him the previous Sunday, and it was spotted straight away the same day that it came out. So it's spotted on Monday. I put it on X. Jason put it on X from UAP Studies. And I think collectively it had about 105,000 views on it in 24 hours. And I heard everything from, oh, you were smoking, to, oh, it's dust particles and stuff like that. It's like, no, I can categorically tell you it's none of those things.
No, dust particles don't look, that doesn't even look like a dust particle.
I'm not even telling you what it is. I'm not telling you what it is. You can make your own mind up, because I don't know what it is.
But it's none of those things.
But screw any UFO footage that I've seen over the last 5 years, 10 years, whatever. For me, that is the most unexplained thing that I've ever seen. But
on video.
On video. Absolutely.
It's up there, man.
You can't explain it. And if you're watching this and you are a whiz with video editing and analyzing anything like this, I've got nothing to hide. Drop me a comment in the comment section. I'll get in touch with you. I'll send you the original raw video. You can have a look. You can analyze it any way you want. Because quite frankly, I want the answer.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Nothing to hide.
It's amazing. It's very strange.
So
now,
there you go.
After that, because I know you've been having a number of different experiences, we'll say, has there been any significant change?
Everything that was happening to me in the middle of the night, which was a significant amount of very horrific stuff, has all stopped.
That's weird.
Ever since then. Mick West probably thinks it's a seagull that flew out of my head.
Oh, you mean one of these? Got it. Okay. little North Wildwood relic that my mom got me when we were on vacation. Not related to Mick West in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't do something so blasphemous. But I lately myself, I've been telling you this every day. It's been going on for well over a week now. It seems like every night my dreams have just been very weird. Like last night I had this dream. There's always this theme of like I'm being like chased by something or like hunted by something. I don't mean like an animal either. Like it's just this weird feeling of like I have to hide or something. It's very strange. I don't know. And it could just be like a psychological thing. I'm not saying it's even related to anything abnormal. Very, very strange. And it makes the very first hour of like waking life kind of weird lately. Because I have all types of different dreams normally. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. I usually don't have nightmares.
We've spoken about this before, Tom. I don't really dream. I hardly ever remember a dream ever. But look, if you want to know more about my experiences, I'm not going to go dive into it now because I've already done it. And quite frankly, I'd love you to go over to UAP Studies on their YouTube channel or on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts and watch that episode and give them the attention that they deserve.
Love them.
So, in fact, the link to the episode, is in the description of this YouTube video. So please go and check it out. There's also links to anybody that we got any of the clips from for today's show, including Disclosure Team, Red Panda Koala on X, and that UFO podcast. Even though we didn't end up showing that clip, but go check them all out. They're good guys.
Do it. These are the people that we check out and grab stuff from, and there's a vast community of media out there. Also, as far as UAP Studies, I was invited on. Not sure exactly what date that's going to be, but Digby went on, talked about his experiences. I'm essentially going to be doing the same thing at some point soon. I just really love those guys over at that show.
You've got to top me now. I mean, I had something fly out of my head, Tom.
Listen, I'm just gonna talk about my experiences, and that's that. If anything happens on camera, it is out of my control. I don't have any control over Dementors flying out of my skull. I just don't have control over that.
Yeah.
Not yet, at least. Yeah.
Anyway,
sure, I'll get there.
Look, it's been lovely coming back.
But
really liked it. Really liking it. It's not the only one. We're going to be back.
We don't have a clip. We don't have a clip for this, Digby. But since it's been a while, you hadn't really been here on a consistent basis, and now that we're back, there is one last thing that needs to be done. We don't have a segment clip for it.
Hang on. Wait. Hold on 1 second.
Or do you?
No. Wait. Speculation Station.
There was no effect on your voice.
Hang on, wait. Speculation Station.
You know what I mean, Ari? That's great. It's even better. Oh, that's
Anyway, there we go. How embarrassing the effect wasn't on the first time. I must have just been like,
but that's why people like our show, though, because stuff happens randomly that's like pretty funny. Yeah, it's all
I'm gonna
good.
Go back and watch the whole show and see if anything flies out of either of our heads.
The only thing that happened is I flew out of the podcast.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, where's the video gone? Anyway, Speculation Station.
This is yours.
No, what?
I'll do one too.
Oh.
Okay, that's all right.
You've caught me completely off guard. No.
I mean, anything.
Sorry. No. What if there are brain farts inside all of our heads?
What does that mean?
Well, Mum was a brain fart.
Hey, UAP Studies is here. Look at that. Hey.
Oh, man, you owe us some serious money.
Check your inbox on X. Check your inbox.
We've just plugged you so much that
we plugged you in.
I'll give you my PayPal later on. You can
check your inbox on X/Twitter for the love of all that is holy. Check your goddamn inbox. I sent you a message.
Jason told me he doesn't want to speak to you anymore. That's why.
Okay, good. I just needed to know.
Anyway,
we love Jason. We love Katie.
We do a little bit too much.
I really his new co-host. His new co-host is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I love Michael.
Katie Page. She wants to come on the show.
I'd love to have Katie on. I would love to meet her.
Me too.
She seems really friendly. Really, really friendly.
So, Tom, come on. Your Speculation Station.
It's not. It's a comment. be very, very, very careful who you put all of your faith in as far as people out in the community. Stay away from idolatry. It's okay to respect people. It's okay to revere them and have respect for them and such. But just remember that we're all imperfect. We're all fallible. We're all capable of making mistakes. No one is perfect out here. Again, I don't like tearing people down, but I also don't like getting treated like a piece of crap either, and I don't like seeing people do that either.
I don't like tearing people down. I also don't respect people who treat people the way that he does, and no good can come of it. And if he is the merchant of disclosure, then I want nothing to do with it. Anyway, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, man, I'm happy.
Really emotional. And thank you, everybody, for coming back and watching the Unidentified Anomalous podcast. I'll be doing episodes throughout the week on UAP Daily, and Tom and I will be back this time next Sunday. Thank you all. God bless. Take care. And goodbye.